Over the years, there have been many competitors that have sought to become the king of the investing mobile app. Robinhood, WeBull, Acorns, M1 Finance. But now, there's a new competitor coming from Mr. Wonderful himself, Kevin O'Leary. BeanStox. It's not the most exciting name, is it? Well, I've been reviewing this app for a few days now to see how well it stacks up against these other apps. And my first impression is, it's not really trying to compete with these other apps. Now, I've used all of these apps except for M1 Finance, and interestingly enough, M1 Finance seems to be the most similar to BeanStox because it tries to be more than just an investing app, providing other financial services right out of the gate. Now, I know that all of these different apps are trying to expand into different areas, like Acorns with their debit card, Robinhood with their savings account, and now a sort of Dave Ramsey meets stock investing app, BeanStox. Now, no, BeanStox is not sponsoring this video as if I would get video sponsors. And so this video is being provided to you entirely for free. So if you wouldn't mind, just please hitting the like button. It really helps push this video out to a larger audience for the YouTube algorithm, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's totally free. Now, BeanStox is more than just an investing app. It's an app that's designed to try to help you to build wealth. Right when you open the app, you can immediately see its emphasis on education with a quote from Mr. Wonderful. The average American who makes $52,000 per year and invests 10%, just $100 per week, over 40 years can become a millionaire. Now, that's obviously true. In fact, I've said the same thing in my other videos, but it's interesting to see this kind of mentality being brought into an actual investing app itself. All right, so I've got my phone here and I'm going to walk through some of the different pages in the app. Now, sorry if the camera quality is a little bit older. I usually record most of these videos on my phone, and so I'm using my older phone to actually record this segment. So like I mentioned earlier, right when you open the app, you're met with this quote from Mr. Wonderful. This kind of sets the tone for the app right off the bat, because it really emphasizes saving for long-term goals. Okay, so once you log into the app, the first thing that you're met with is this calculator right here, which lets you put in an initial investment, how much you want to invest on a weekly basis, and then what portfolio style you're going for. Now, this app is a little bit buggy occasionally. Like right now it's showing me that this chart that's supposed to appear to chart my net worth over time isn't showing up, and I've seen that happen a couple other times while I've been playing with the app. So right here, they talk about how they're going to invest your money. Basically, they ask you a bunch of questions to determine your risk tolerance, and then they assign you either more investments into ETFs, which are exchange-traded funds that hold stocks, or they're gonna put you into bonds. So I'll hit next. It asks me some information about how old I am, what's my primary reason for investing, how long I want the money invested, and do I care more about maximizing my gains or minimizing my losses. So I'll fill this out real quick. So once I fill out this profile according to my specifications, it shows that I want to go for a growth strategy, which makes sense. That's generally what I do for investing. I focus more on maximizing my gains since I'm not going to need to pull out the money for a long time. So I'll confirm that this strategy is the one that I want to choose. Next, it asks me to set a goal. Now, this app is really focused around the idea of savings goals. So all of the money that you invest is invested toward a specific goal. Now, the most broad of those would just be Wealth Builder, which is on the screen now, but I could also save for travel or a car or a wedding or anything else that I want to go for. I'm going to stick with Wealth Builder for now because that's just kind of the default. So right here, it asks for my initial investment. Now, actually, if you put in an initial investment greater than $25,000, you're going to get an error farther down the line. They don't warn you about this up front, which again is kind of a drawback to using a new app. There's always a few bugs, but just make sure you keep your initial investment below $25,000. So I'll just put $10,000 for now. And then I'll put in a regular weekly investment of, let's say, $500. So now they're going to build the investment portfolio that they recommend for me. Here it is right here. You can see that they're putting me in 90% equity, and they expect me to invest for 30 years and for me to add $500 every week. And then they kind of plot how much money this would grow to over 30 years, which in my case would be around $2.5 million. Now, all of these numbers seem to match up pretty well with calculations I've made myself. I've done some of these same calculations in my other videos. The only thing that I haven't covered before is the idea of putting some of your money into equity and some of it into bonds. Now, this is using modern portfolio theory to determine what percent should be allocated to each. Basically, the older I get, the more money is going to be moved out of equity and into bonds to try to limit my risk. So once I click next on that, the next thing it asks me is to complete my profile and then fund the account with a bank account. Okay, so once you get onto the main home screen, this is what you're shown. Right at the top of the screen, you can see all these different cards that talk about different aspects of personal finance. So you have debt and financing, saving and investing, success stories. So if I open one of these up, each of these is actually an article covering some of the basics of personal finance. So for example, on this one, it talked about having an emergency fund, how to save for special projects, and how to build your wealth. All of these stories kind of follow that same general trend. They're just some basic personal finance articles. which I think could be really useful for newer investors. Also on the bottom of this app, there's 4 different tabs. I'm on the My Account tab, but I can also go to the Member Zone tab. Now the Member Zone tab takes you to kind of this blog section here, which again just has articles covering different personal finance topics. Now you'll notice that nowhere in this app is there any kind of stock chart or any kind of focus on individual stocks. That's because this app is really focused on taking conservative investments in exchange traded funds and bonds. You're not going to find the same kind of UI that you see in other apps like WeBull or Robinhood. Now, the last thing that I want to point out here is the membership. Now, this app actually does not come with a membership automatically. You have to pay a monthly fee of $5 to unlock some of the features. And I'll talk about those a little bit later. So now to recap. The app takes a very education-first approach to investing and saving your money and is clearly built for newer investors. They don't let you start with an initial amount greater than $25,000 when setting your initial allocation for your goal, and you also can't set your savings to more than $500 per week in their calculator. Because of this isn't an app that I think will appeal that much to someone who's already very personal finance minded, because they probably already know most of the information being provided. That being said, I think this would be a great app to recommend to maybe a friend who's not very good with money, but who has expressed some interest in investing. The other interesting approach that this app takes is it allocates all of your saving, all of your spending, and all of your investing relative to a specific goal. In the Transactions tab, you can see all of your different savings goals and see any withdrawals or deposits you've made toward that goal. You can also, within each goal, see what securities you hold and what investments you've made. I kind of like this setup just for the psychological benefit of making your savings goal so concrete. If you add $100, you can immediately see that go toward your goal amount, and you can also right there invest it into some kind of security. Now that's just for the free version of the app. There's also a paid version of the app, which you can get for a $5 a month subscription. That subscription gives you access to a couple other features like automatic deposits. So if you want to save a certain amount of your money every single week, the app can set up those deposits for you. Now, obviously you can do this yourself by just going to your bank and setting it up, but maybe that's a little bit more complicated and this app just makes it easier. Another benefit is automatic rebalancing. Now, the app uses modern portfolio theory to calculate how much of your money should be in stocks versus bonds, and then it can automatically rebalance your portfolio if that number changes. And they'll also absorb all the fees for that. Now, again, if you're already pretty comfortable with investing, you might already handle this by yourself, but again, this is kind of a nice to have, and it'd be really nice for new investors. The third benefit is it lets you save multiple savings goals in one account. Out of the box, you can only put one savings goal, which really isn't that useful. So I think this is actually one of the more useful categories for paying the $5 a month. And then the last benefit they talk about is there are no hidden fees or commissions when you pay the $5 a month subscription. Now, this one sounds a little bit weird to me because is that implying that there are hidden fees and commissions if you don't pay that amount? Well, after looking into this a little bit online, it looks like what they actually mean is you don't pay any brokerage or commission fees when you're actually buying and selling securities when you have the subscription, but you might pay those if you don't. So I'm going to give Kevin O'Leary the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're not going to charge you hidden fees and commissions if you don't pay the subscription. Hopefully that was just bad phrasing. So yeah, overall, I would say it's a nice little app. Its strong point is definitely in educating users on how not to blow their money and how to grow it most effectively without YOLOing it on Tesla call options. I'm looking at you, Robinhood. It also does well as a motivational device to help one reach their financial goals. The way the UI is set up to really put savings goals at the front and center of investing, I think is a really neat way to get people to pay more attention to their goals and for them to feel more real in their everyday life. Now, on the flip side, the downsides are this app is a little bit basic. There's no options trading or margin available, which is probably a good thing since this app is so tailored to new investors. But more experienced investors might not find all the features that they want to use. Also, experienced investors might find all the personal finance calculators and articles a little bit intrusive and maybe not all that helpful since they already know the information. Also, the automatic portfolio calculator is a little bit rigid. It doesn't really let you tweak too many of the parameters, and it just makes you assign your portfolio based on modern portfolio theory. Because of all these things, I personally will not be using the app. But to be fair, I'm not the target audience for this app. I'm a personal finance nerd who already reads articles on personal finance just every day for fun. This app is really geared toward anyone who would benefit from having more direction and more education in how to invest and save their money. And for this audience, I think BeanStox does a pretty good job. Honestly, if I had to pick one app that BeanStox reminds me of the most, it's Stash, just with a little bit more focus on education. That is all just my opinion though, and if you use the app and you have a different opinion, let me know in the comments. I read and respond to pretty much all of them. Also, if you have any other suggestions for investing apps or maybe budgeting apps, let me know about those in the comments as well. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. And if you don't want to miss out on any future videos, make sure to both subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you next time.